Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is playoff season yet again, and it feels almost strange that we've got to this point where North will be concluding in a couple of days, but here we are. Challengers EMEA Finals Week is well underway, and those Ascension spots are up for grabs. I'm once again joined by my trusty companion Kairo to give us the breakdown on what should be a pretty competitive end to the season. Kairo, how are you feeling coming into the last couple of weeks?
Good, mate. Good, because I have internet. I can actually do things, you know. Just as long as you don't ask me to break it down dance style, then I'll be happy to break it down any way you want.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Should we dive straight in? Give you the honours of, breaking this one apart for us, breaking it down, breaking it apart, breaking it in any kind of way that you possibly can. For me, the only breaking I see is Apex smashing OnlyFins.
I mean, there's no other way to look at it other than I expect Apex to evolve, you know. I feel as if this is the like cocoon breaking apart, and this is where we actually see the big horrible orange and blue butterfly that's going to wreak havoc across the rest of EMEA. Because past couple of weeks, Hazza, I'm going to be honest, I haven't been convinced in the regular season of Apex. A lot of storylines, a lot of, I don't want to call them excuses because I feel as if that's too harsh on Apex, but like they're not being the Apex that we know. I think they should win it, get into the upper bracket pretty easily, but there is always that small chance, that teeny weeny chance that it all falls apart.
Yeah, it is a very small chance though, and for that reason I'm happy to move Apex into the uppers and drop OnlyFins down to the lowers. In terms of my issues with OnlyFins, I think there was a big conversation that we had about them changing to an English-speaking roster, and at this point, that is almost the only reasoning I can give to what has been a drop-off in form for their core. Ale has come in as the duelist and performed exceptionally well at times, but I feel as if the rest of the team is lacking something at the moment. Whether they're able to create some kind of patchwork in the couple of weeks off that they've had since play-ins concluded at the end of that stage with them having qualified alongside Requiem. I don't know, man, but right now I don't feel too great about their chances. Maybe there's a chance in the lower bracket, but it doesn't start in that fashion against Apex, that's for certain.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, though, with OnlyFins, I think they may be a little bit more inconsistent compared to last split, but I certainly feel as if their ceiling is much higher this split, and something Nixon's always been saying is that with every week that goes by and every mistake that's made, another patch is put on top of that, and it's stuff that's actually working. They're not putting paper over cracks. It's actually concrete, or even gold, if you want to go that far. It's filling in these cracks. It's just whether they can keep it together for playoffs, right? Whether we can actually see the OnlyFins hit the ceiling that we all think that they can. Because you see it in dribs and drabs. I don't think I've seen it consistently over a full best of 3. But hey, that's just for me.
No, I agree. I think you took a gold there. I'm thinking more fool's gold, to be honest. I don't want to rip into them. I love them. But, you know, it's like the ship of Theseus. You change so much stuff. What even is your identity anymore? We lost them being a fully finished roster already. You know, it's about keeping that floor level up, because right now it just, again, it doesn't fill me with confidence, but there's always a chance. And these guys love to go on late runs. They do the bare minimum to just about squeak into the playoff stage, and then things begin to ramp up. That is what I predict for the first game, though. Into Sweet and Sour versus Requiem. For me, despite the result that we saw, I don't feel majorly confident about Requiem. And the reason why I didn't make this prediction video any sooner is that anything can always happen in the lead up to it. The last couple of weeks for Requiem haven't been ideal. They had so much momentum coming out of the group stage into the play-in stage. And then what went and happened? They lost to EXO in EVC, who didn't even win Epic over the weekend, albeit with a sub. Harambe broke his wrist, and I don't know what his recoveries look like. So I'm wondering, are they going to be fully fit, fully ready for this game? Perhaps not. Sweet and Sour with their own issues to try and overcome. I still fancy that they have the experience from someone like Hearthbeat. in this situation again to tie up what is a very strong individualistic team. So for that reason, those are my results for the rest of the opening round.
I agree, but I think these results can look very different compared to what teams we see show up once again. I think, honestly, Requiem have, like as you said, before the end of the split, before we had the conclusion of play-ins for Polaris, I think Requiem probably looked the best and most informed team in the entire league, if I'm being honest. Hazza, better than that of Apex. They were demolishing teams, demolished Sweet and Sour. And I'm really starting to worry for Sweet and Sour coming out at the end of that split. They've had a few couple of weeks, but I'm like you say, like Halfbeat having experience, blah blah blah. I'm worried about like the calling structure. How does it look? The leadership within the team, because at the end of the day, that last play day that they played, I understand that it doesn't matter that much, but it just felt as if the team threw away everything, threw away the small things, the way they were playing off each other, the micro. I just didn't think it looked like Sweet and Sour. And if these guys throw everything away, then I think they're going to get punished by some really great opponents that are sitting in this bracket.
I mean, if you take miss points out of the equation, that was their chance to top the group inside of the games that were played and purely on the head-to-head that they had against Apex. This is also a team which has lost to OnlyFins. The issues are there, yet we still have them winning. Could it go the opposite way? There's every chance. That's what happened last time. They lost their opening game and then managed to beat Metasport in that road towards the possibility of carrying on forwards in the competition and then ultimately making the grand final. But now we speak about the second round, and we will start with the elimination game. The question for me, and the question I'm posing to you, is out of these two teams, not in the best of form perhaps, so you disregard the fact that Requiem are on a win streak, can that be carried through? Have OnlyFins made the changes? In my eyes, I think we're living in the world where this version of OnlyFins, this iteration, has perhaps gone as far as it's able to. I would say that Requiem, with the foundations that they've built, they have the security to survive for at least 2 rounds.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's exactly the case. I think with Requiem, just is the sheer quality, right? I think we do have to remember though that when the last time these two played, it was the finish issue. What was it, Val 83 or something?
Yeah.
Or
Vanguard
83.
error.
You get the idea. There was an error that stopped the Finnish players actually being in the server. So I think that with that being the case, Hazza, I think there's always a possibility that this could be a topsy-turvy match. I think this best of 3 could actually be a really good watch depending on what happens. But yeah, I think like I still back Requiem, but I also think this is another match where I could see OnlyFins going through.
And again, between those 3 teams, there is a possibility that we live in a timeline where OnlyFins have managed to overcome everything that was wrong. Yeah. Ale's duelist game is still perfectly fine, and they go all the way through lowers and even make the final. I genuinely think that's a possibility. It's so difficult to call, but you've got to commit to one or the other. And for me, yeah, I think Requiem do progress.
I think honestly that we live in a world where Apex don't show up and someone steals the Ascension slot off them. Personally, I think because that's I know it's like the least likely, but I think if there's any split to come into, this is both the most promising, like in terms of bloods in the water for Apex, we can take them, but also the most scary, because this is now where Apex are like, well, we've got to go and do it, so let's go and do it, sort of thing. You know.
Well,
so
let's pose that question then, of the same vein, towards this upper final match that we've both suggested, Apex versus Sweet and Sour. Can Sweet and Sour do the double over them in as many best of 3s, or do you think with their current track record and the sour end to what we saw in the group stage, it's somewhat tainted enough for Apex to get back to winning ways?
I think it's Apex, mate. It's got to be. I don't see it any other way. It has to be Apex. That we live in a world where they have invested this amount of money. We live in a world where we've not seen Apex's haven. Yes, it's the same for other teams, but in my opinion, Hazza, there should be no excuses for this roster. I'm basing it off of, like, if they fail, then it's disaster, right? There is nothing short of disaster if they do not make Ascension.
You already speak of possibilities. The possibility that Ascend don't progress, depending on what happens in East, is still a very real one. So whether they match in their footsteps, both of the upper finalists of Ascension last time, who knows? Again, if we get an interview, even out of that first win, I want to know what the two-way situation with Soulcast is, because again, I think that whole situation's been a little bit disruptive. They're joking about some of the rumours, but you never know how much of a factor it does play. They will want to sort of lean into it and be like, oh, well, look, we're still winning, so it doesn't really matter. But I think it is prevalent at the end of the day, and you see it in that patch in the timeline to dropping a map against FMG, nearly losing to them, and then actually conceding their first series against Sweet and Sour after what was, the map streak that they already had put up. I do agree, though. I think that this is another game which they are in a position to win. Again, they have to be the favourite to every game that they step into. That is the state of play. They've only lost one series. For Sweet and Sour, is the possibility for upset still there? Of course, it always is. I think they failed to cement themselves as a favourite or a team which you do have that kind of favorability towards right now, where they could have. They fumbled first in groups, like we said before. But that's how this one goes, and that then puts them in the lowers for what will be their third game against Requiem in almost as many games.
Yeah, exactly. But Hazza, who wins that one, I think is, again, going to be another interesting factor. But for me, when I look at it, I think that if Sweet and Sour can find a way to beat Requiem, then I think they'll find themselves in the grand finals. That's what I went for. I believe in the Sweet and Sour boys to get to at least the grand finals, confirm themselves for Ascension play-ins. What happens after that, I do not know. Whether they can make Ascension, hey, I mean, I don't know what you think.
I think for me, this one comes down purely to the preparation and the setup that both of these teams have. That means, are the permutations that we get similar to what we've predicted here, or something completely different? Are only Finns tearing through the lowers? Is this even the game that we think it's going to be? Because, something you already mentioned, Haven. I think this map is ultimately the decider in how this series goes, because Requiem as a team, they've showed quite a lot of it. Sweet and Sour still holding those cards close to their chest, yet to debut it coming into playoffs. I think that could be a real strength for them. However, at the same time, for the set of results that I've suggested, if Requiem get this far, they take the learnings of the lower bracket and some added momentum with it, there's absolutely no reason why the revenge story doesn't complete itself in a rematch, no less, with the extra, profiling that they'll have of their opponents in a game that matters. Yanto spoke so much about the fact that we want it to be a competitive environment. That raising of the stakes makes it more important. And the fact that Sweet and Sour are in the same lower bracket matchup last time around, and I think regardless of what happens in those first few games, they will be playing in match number 5 as we have it right here. So again, like 50-50, I think it goes 3 maps. There's overtimes in there. You're extending regulation as you were last time. But for me, I'll go the opposite way and say that Requiem can make that play-in slot. In terms of play-ins, are they going to be like a favorite if they do go there? I don't know. Do they have a chance? I think they need more experience, but that is still a question to be answered. Perhaps your final goes a different way. Let's talk about it.
After a little bit of what do you call it? Fixing it. There we go. Apex. I think Apex are winning. It's expectations, right? That's what I think of the roster. I think that, again, they have everything to lose here. The roster has been spent on, the organisation has shed a load of cash, and we already know that they've had some issues this split. I hope that they can fix that going forward. So I think that there's too much riding on this for them to like not hide strats, if that makes sense, for them not to turn up and for them not to be in the best form that we expect Apex to be.
Yeah, I think like it's an important topic that you raise here, because looking into the future in Ascension and stuff like that, In terms of the tactical depth of our region, I feel like we've been really lacking in comparison to last year, for example. Whether that's to do with the title race being a little more clear-cut this time around, or just the fact that teams haven't felt the need to innovate when their fundamentals were so strong and that Apex have been on the run that they've been on, I'm not too sure. Again, though, there is always a clear and obvious favourite for me in this final game. Something to even mention and contrast with if this were to be a sweet and sour rematch again, is that it's a best-of-5 environment. I think you give that much mental headspace and sort of headroom to Apex, they're not going to let that go to waste. You know that they'll be on boot camp. Again, the investment has been made, and regardless of Soulcast's situation in the future, if he has a Liquid offer, that's locked in. He knows he's going to franchising. Does he want to carry it on with Apex? I'm sure he does, right? He's going to live that right to the end because, you know, Liquid aren't going to champs. That's now out of the picture. The Stage 2 is finished. You've got to wait until 2025 to be thinking about that. There's games for him to play. He's back in the same environment. And yeah, to play devil's advocate to what I was saying earlier, I think, yeah, you do look at it from the opposite side, and this is a project of longevity, one that they've been working on for the entirety of this year so far, and the fruits of their labour should be there. You have to remember as well, Apex have never lost a playoff match. Do we think that's going to change anytime soon, especially with the quality of the league this year and the teams around them? I don't think so.
No, there's no chance, mate. I think, like, that's the thing, though. People will look at it and be like, oh, maybe they were a bit jarred during the regular season. When they all go to boot camp and they're all together, like, they look so much more better. I think as well, there will be a mentality coach. The Apex had that last year round, if you remember right, Hazza. Like, I just don't see it going any other way. Yeah, I think, like, we expect Apex to make Ascension. Maybe them winning Ascension is a different conversation entirely, but yeah, I think they are certainly more than good enough to win.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. We've both chosen Apex as our Ascension teams. Two different candidates for play-ins, but that is the way the cookie crumbles. Do I still think that there is a multitude of other variations to this? Of course. I maybe even lean more slightly towards the sweet and sour final that you suggested, and OnlyFins sweeping the lowers should they show a different version of themselves in the games that we've got over the coming days. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Twitter as well, at HazzaJC_. And we'll catch you for all of the action in the coming days and weeks that we've got heading towards play-ins as well. So once again, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll catch you very soon. Bye-bye.